Good morning, everyone. Welcome to Stacking Hall, where we house the Department of Food Science in this gorgeous day. We really live for this day, so we're very grateful for those. My name is Olga Padilla-Zaker. I'm serve as the chair of the Food Science Department, and it's my pleasure to welcome you to our Global Systems conference. So, one of the things is you're very fortunate because we're 10 days before our reopening, our dedication to Stacking Hall. So our building really offers so many opportunities to see what we can have here. And all the signage has been put up. You can do self-guided tours of all the areas of a Stacking Hall, and we encourage you to take a few minutes to do so. So you'll see in our ground floor, besides our conference center next door where you have breakfast, we have the auditorium, we have our teaching winery. And by the way, right after the teaching winery are the restrooms, if you need to use them. So we have the dairy bar, we have, you just follow the cow signs. On the second floor, you'll see the gallery, so you can see also from there all our equipment in our dairy plant, state of the art. You see some of our laboratories also on the other floors. And in the corner over here, you take a little bit of a walk, you'll see our product development kitchen for our students. They really love doing different projects in our kitchen and has been a great addition for all of our activities. We also have a great opportunity. We just opened our sensory facility, and it's right on the first floor. If you walk a little bit to what we call Stacking West, which is the old building, you'll see the brand new sensory facility, and Professor Robin Dando and Anna Catherine Mansfield, they will be, and Alina Stelik are here today, and they will be really very willing to give you a tour of everything that we have. So this is our Cornell Food Systems Global Summit, our second one, and we welcome everyone that is here from industry, from other institutions, and of course from all different parts of campus. We want to thank our sponsors, IBM, for their generous support and for providing our keynote speaker, Robin Luigi. And also we want to thank Cornell Systems Engineering because they gave us a sponsorship and we're able to provide 25 really spots for students to attend, which is great because we want to see all the bright minds of the future really joining us. A few logistics that I still need to tell you: put your cell phones on mute, so we don't have any last minute people running out of the room here. And I like to say that our institute has been very, very productive, the Cornell Institute for Food Systems. We have over 70 faculty fellows that have joined us in the last year and a half. And they are so interested and passionate about food and food systems. And we have right now an advisory council from across the university. We have been running 2 working groups, one in control environment agriculture and one in big data, hence our topic for this symposium, our summit. So we have also 10 companies that have joined our industry partnership program, and many of them are here today, and we encourage you to talk to each other because a lot of the interactions really are the ones that incentivize new ideas, and we'll have new projects coming out of those. I don't want to take a lot of the time because we have a very nice full agenda, and it's my pleasure right now to introduce Dr. Julie Stafford, who will really start up all our activities for today. Thank you.
Good morning, everyone. It's a pleasure to be here. It's a pleasure to see so many people here who are interested in thinking about systems and what does it mean to take a systems approach. I also want to share with you, as Olga said, my name is Julie Stafford. I'm the Industry Liaison Officer. I sit within the Department of Food Science and support the Cornell Institute for Food Systems. And our institute is really based on the activity of our industry partners. We would not be here without them, as well as the commitment of those 70 faculty fellows. And together, we really strive to have strong partnerships on the industry and university sides. I thank you all for being here today because I do know that some of you had the day off for Columbus Day, but even so, you're enthusiastic and you're here, and I ask that everyone just immerse yourself in the day and engage and be sure to ask a lot of questions, because I really do think that this is how we're going to move forward, is by talking to each other about all different parts of the food system. Okay, within our institute, I'm going to start by just giving you a little bit of background so that we sort of start on the same page. And so I share with you here the definition provided by the Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations. Note this came out just in 2013, so really not that long ago. Food systems encompass all the people, institutions, and processes by which agricultural products are produced, processed, and brought to consumers. So you see, as our graphical element for the Institute is here, from farm to fork, for us on the basis of science. That's really what we stand for here. What I think we want to bring forward today is that the food system is comprised of a set of elements. I think most of us recognize that we work in one part of the food system, and we may think of it as somehow organized, but I'm going to propose today coherently organized, because what does that bring? That brings a vision, a shared vision that people have when they're working together around the food system. We're going to focus on interconnections and interdependencies in the food system, and I think that this is important because this is a key piece that differentiates from how potentially we've operated in the past, and that we are going to have a sensitivity towards unintended consequences, that these are possible, that by impacting one part of the food system, you may actually produce an unintended consequence in another part of the system. And what do you do with that? And how do you think about that? So many times, I think that when we think about the food system, we think about something like this image here, like this diagram. And it has multiple parts. They are connected, but they're fairly linearly connected, okay? You don't see diagram lines going all over saying that there's a connection between distribution and what goes on with the machinery and equipment. But is that possible? And we're going to contend today that that is possible, that by working in one part of the food system, you should be able to acknowledge other parts of the food system and to think about what are those interconnections and the impact of those interconnections. So I found this word cloud out on the internet about systems, and I really like it because I think that it allows different characteristics to emerge that represent the whole idea of systems thinking. And systems thinking can, of course, mean different things to different people. I'm going to go over a few different traits here, but you can see that I've listed several along the side there, that there are different elements, there are different components. There's an order to them. And what do I mean by an order? I mean that we're looking at the relationships. They're placed in a structure, so we have in our mind a way in which they link to each other. And the way one group of people think that they link to each other may be different than another person. They are often nonlinear, in contrast to the chart that you just saw, and we're often talking about the flows among the different components. There are dynamics going on, and you often hear people thinking about the complexity of the system. And I will contend that the system may be complex, but at the end of the day, you're looking for where is the focus? Where are the simple areas that you can prioritize and take action against? And many times you're looking out in the future. And if you take this all the way from being a vision to simulating, you can I contend, create an image of the future. You're simulating, you're looking forward. So where is this systems notion coming from, whether it's systems thinking, systems modeling, systems simulation? Well, I've pointed out here that whether you are sitting in the academic world, publishing in a journal like Agricultural Systems, or you're keeping track of what's in Fortune magazine, September 1st, there was an article about senior management in a major food manufacturer or distributor, and that leader was quoted as talking about systems intelligence. And finally, if you work on the policy side, and you're really trying to put a frame of reference out there for others to follow, all of these groups are talking about systems intelligence, systems thinking, systems modeling. I think the time is now. It's not that the approach is brand new. It's not brand new, but applying it through the food system, it has really come into its own. And I think the fact that you are here today, you are a group of people that are going to think about this and take this idea forward. So when the policy group met, the policy group, before they issued this book that just came out in February 2015, they needed their own vision. These were people from different disciplines, and they came together under one chair of the committee, 14 or 15 people. And to start the dialogue, they had to decide, do they all agree on the vision? And this is the vision, the system that they ended up with. And yes, there are many of the same components we saw in the linear design, but notice that there are many interconnections represented here. And it's not that this has to be your vision, but it's an example of a vision. And we are very fortunate here today that the chair of the committee that designed this system is here at Cornell, Professor Malden Neschheim. And he has joined us this morning. I've asked him to give us a little background on how this committee worked, why they were formed, and what came out of the time they spent together, because I think this is a perfect frame of reference for where we're going to go throughout the day.
There you go, sir. Thank you, Julie. It's very nice to be here this morning. As Julie said, I chaired a committee of the Institute of Medicine that produced this report that was released earlier this year. And it was a framework for assessing the effects of the food system. The long title was The Effects of the Environmental, Health, Social, and Economic Aspects of the Food System. And I'd like to tell you a little bit about what this report contains and a little bit of the background of it. This report was generated as a result of a workshop that was held in Washington by the Food and Nutrition Board back in 2012, because there's been a lot of concern about what is really the true cost of food. What is really in the cost of food, or what are the externalities that are not included in the price of food, and how are those accounted for, and who pays for them, and where do they come from? So that was the workshop that was produced. And some of the concerns that came out of that workshop were things like were shown on this slide, and you can see there's a huge variety of things here, all the way from people getting access to food to quality of life of workers in the food system, to effects on water and natural resources, and you can see this list is quite a long one. So the committee, out of this workshop came a committee that was formed by the Board on Agriculture of the National Research Council and the Institute of Medicine, the Food and Nutrition Board, to look at to develop a framework for assessing the health, environmental, and social effects, both positive and negative, associated with the ways in which food is grown, processed, distributed, marketed, retailed, and consumed within the U.S. food system. It's a big task. I mean, we were kind of confronted to this, but I had a good committee, a variety of people all the way from animal scientists to agronomists to sociologists to economists. It was a very interesting interdisciplinary group that took on this task. And the report that we came up with is briefly, we have a description of what the U.S. food system, what we think the U.S. food system is all about, and how it has evolved over the course of the years. We had to do this. We're going to talk about the food system. We had to come to an agreement, well, really, what is the food system? And then we have chapters in this book on what are the health, environmental, social, and economic effects of the food system. We have a framework in which you assess policies that are associated with the food system. And then we have some examples about decisions that would have benefited if this framework had been used. And I'll just, this diagram that Julie showed you was a conceptual model that we had of what the food system really is. And basically it shows the various players in the food system, and it shows as she pointed out, the interconnectivity between this. If you push a button in one part of the food system, something pops out somewhere else. And that was the thing this committee really spent a lot of time on. And here, the U.S. food system has a lot of good things about it. I mean, we produce a lot of food, a variety of food at very low cost that is available to the U.S. consumer. On the other hand, there are issues that are involved with the food system. For example, we have an incredible level of obesity. So the food environment in this country supports a level of obesity, and along with it, type 2 diabetes and chronic disease. Environmental issues, what are the effects of, I mean, we have a dead spot in the Gulf of Mexico because of nitrogen running down the Mississippi that is over nitrogen's fertilization in the Midwest, or Lake Erie, which has an enormous bloom, and Toledo has a trouble with its water supply. And things like workers' well-being, the rural development, 40% of the workers that have been estimated that are involved in the crop systems in this country are undocumented workers. There's a whole set of issues like this that are part of the food system. And we have chapters that go through all of that are in this report. And this is a framework that we came up with. If you're going to put a policy in place in the food system, well, you have to assess, this is kind of a simple way of looking at how you do an assessment. You look at what the problem is, what's the scope of the assessment going to be, what is the scenario you're looking at, what are you changing, so what is the scenario you're going to look at. You find appropriate methods of analysis, you put it together, and you report on it. But the core of that is this kind of circular diagram there, which says that if you're going to do an analysis, you need to recognize the effects across the full system of the food chain. What are all the way from inputs and production all the way to consumption and waste. So there's a whole set of context that you need to look at. Consider all the domains and dimensions of the effects: health, environment, social, economic. There's going to be trade-offs in there. You're going to have to decide, what is the trade-off between the environmental effects as well as the health effects and so forth. So this was part of the framework. You have to account for the fact that not everything works the same way. There's heterogeneities in the food system that you have to look at, and you have to use the appropriate methods of analysis and synthesis. And we list examples of those in the report as the kind of things that you can do. We have a section in there about policies that would have benefited from an application of something like this in terms of the food system. And so, for example, biofuels, the policy to put in place subsidies and so forth for biofuels, 40% of the U.S. corn crop now goes to biofuels. That's had effect of putting land in corn production that probably shouldn't be in corn production, drawing down the aquifers in Kansas and Oklahoma. And so there are effects, environmental effects of that policy that were not considered when it was put in place. And things like fertilization, dietary recommendations, fish consumption. The dietary guidelines called for everybody to eat 8 ounces of fish a week. We currently eat less than 4, and if we doubled our fish consumption, we wouldn't have enough fish in the world or in the seas, and so there'd be huge environmental and supply effects from that policy. And so, and the same thing is true with vegetable consumption. If we really ate the fruits and vegetables that the dietary guidelines say, Craig, you're going to have to tool up and get a lot more. So, all the way down to the California issue about hen housing practices, where they've outlawed basically small cages for laying hens, and what are the effects of that? And so we have sections in the report where we look at all of those things, not in great detail, but to suggest that there should have been some further looking at it on a systems approach before those policies were put in place. So one of the things that we set out of the conclusion was that these kind of integrated assessments can kind of show things that are in relationships that you may not have anticipated before. And so we think that effects of a broad look at like this can look at outcomes and trade-offs that you wouldn't see if you didn't look at it as broadly as this. And the other thing we say is that we really support all the data collection that's going on in this country. I mean, there's lots of large data sets about you know, the dietary patterns in this country. There's data sets about environment. There's data sets about a whole lot of things that are sponsored by basically the federal government, although private industry has a lot of these as well. But they're very important if we're going to assess what's going on in the food system. And we supported strongly that sort of thing kept on. And we also said that we needed to have increased human capacity to deal with analysis of complex integrated systems. And that's what this is a complex integrated system. And I think that you can get the information that you want to from the report. It's online. You can actually download it for nothing, or you can buy it for $90 or something like that. And that was an exercise in food systems that I was involved with over the last couple of years, which I think is quite apropos to the conference that you're looking at today. So thank you very much.
Okay, great. Okay, you will see this a few more times today, but for now, what I want to point out to you is that the program for today is really an attempt to take us through the system. So you're going to hear talks from agriculture through packaging and processing, all the way out to talking about consumers and even health outcomes. And so we're really trying to paint the picture of all the different components, and at the same time ask the speakers and those of you in the audience to think about, yes, this is my perspective, this is the lens I'm looking through, is agriculture, but where do I interact with some other part of the food system? And why should I care? What could be the implication of that? And how might I go about studying that and ultimately avoiding issues that you don't want to contend with later? And I really appreciated what Mal said at the end about here are areas where we would have benefited if we had taken this approach. It's often hard to know what you might have missed out on if you don't go back and do a debrief. Okay, so that's a bit about the overall program, and underneath this whole notion of components of the system, you will then be hearing about the data running through the system and what kind of data do we need, and the fact that we have more data today than we've had in a long time, and how do we sort through those data, because at the end of the day, our goal is to make a better decision. Okay, make a better decision and do a better job of planning for the future. So I've just put up a few last points to help you, to remind you to think about these different pieces as you listen to the speakers today. Structure of the system, interconnections, unintended consequences, prioritizing, and collaboration. And I just want to make a point that you might have seen some books out in the lobby. All of these books will be given away as sort of door prizes at the dinner tonight. And I encourage you to take a look at them. They all connect to the food system in one way or another. So thank you very much, and we're going to get started on the day. And Leslie, yeah.